folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. There's the baby girl. Today's video is going to be another installment of Stephen King Sunday. I know, I have not recorded one in a while. It's fine. I am wanting to get back into it though, and there is no time like now to start. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about The Stand by Stephen King, aka the biggest book of mankind. And I read this back in March, which means I am a wee bit behind in my reviews. I'm aware, but I'm going to talk about it today. And as usual, if I can remember the way that I did my Stephen King Sundays in the past, I am going to talk to you guys about the basic plot of the book for those of you who don't know. Then I'm going to get into fun Stephen King facts about The Stand for those who want those, because that's my favorite thing that I like to research. And then once I'm done, no, you're going to bite me, I know. Then I'm going to basically get into a discussion and spoilers, and also my thoughts of the book and rating and whatnot. She's just staring at me and I'm like, do you want to bite me or do you not? Okay, you're up on the desk now. So I was really intimidated by this when I first got it, and I broke this down into 26 chunks, I think. I read it over the course of 26 days. Basically ends up being about 50 to 80 pages a day. Some days I skipped ahead, whatever. So I read this in about a month, so that is my way of reading big-ass books like this that are very intimidating. So this is Stephen King's 5th published book in my list, and it was published originally in 1979. The new material copy, which is the extended one, which is what I have, was released in 1990. That is the unabridged, right? Unabridged version that basically tacks on an extra 400 pages. That is the one that I have. That is the one that I am going to be reviewing and talking about, and give you guys just a basic of what this book is about. So essentially there is a project called Project Blue. It is military based, and it's accidentally released, and it causes the world to be like wiped out by this flu virus. It's very graphic. There's a lot of depictions of how people get the flu, how they die from the flu. That makes up a good, first chunk of this book. I love that stuff, first of all. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, love that stuff. It comes by many names. The super flu is one of them. Captain Trips is the other one, is what the people call it. And it's really interesting because it talks heavily about military and what the government does with this flu, and just how it follows, right? And like any sort of dystopian book. And at one point I really do enjoy, they talk about how the flu is being used deliberately to wipe out people. Very interesting. Next, sort of from that, you're following several groups of people. It all intertwines into them trying to get to this one figure called Mother Abigail. Mother Abigail is this 108-year-old woman who, in the context of this book, essentially is good. That is the best way I can describe her, and they're all trying to get to her. They establish a safe haven there. In the meantime, in Las Vegas, there is what I consider bad or evil, and that is people who were very heavy technology based sort of flock to Vegas. It is getting run by Randall Flagg, which is the bad guy, and the rest of the book follows both Mother Abigail's and Randall Flagg's knowing of each other, and then the final stand, or the stand between them, and what happens from that. And that is the basic of The Stand. There is so much more, obviously, in this to talk about, but if you want just a very basic rundown of what happens, that is that. That is relatively spoil-free as I can get it to be. Basically, the flu, two groups of people, good versus evil. That is basically The Stand. Next, I'm just gonna get into my rating. This so far has been my absolute favorite Stephen King that I have read. This is a 5-star book for me. I realize that I absolutely love pandemic, epidemic, where the world is wiped out, dystopian, rebuilding the world type of books. I love it. I love Stephen King's world building, and boy do you get that in a book this size. The character building as well, just so emotionally attached to so many of the characters in here. You really get to know people in 1,300 pages, and it's just Not once was I ever bored, and not once, even in the unabridged version with the extra 400 pages, did I feel like any of it dragged on or that any of that information wasn't needed. So I think if you have the option of reading the abridged version, which is about 800 pages, or the crazy super long unabridged, read the unabridged, because I am always in the boat of more book is better. I want more book, I want more character, especially when a book is pushing 800, 900 pages anyway, then give me the extra 500, because it's just going to provide me with more character, more book. And I personally can't see how this book was abridged, or how I could have reacted to a book that didn't have the stuff that was in this in it. So that is my suggestion to you, is to read the uncut extended version. You guys know what it's about. You guys know my my ratings. Let's get into some fun facts about Stephen King. I love fun facts. It's like my favorite thing. I did kind of break this all down, so some of the fun facts sort of jump around. He wanted to basically write a Lord of the Rings, but set in America at the time. And so that's kind of his inspiration for writing that. And he was also inspired a lot by different cases and the current sort of political setting in the States at the time that he wrote this. So it's influenced by, there's a lot of like military influence in this. He was influenced by a case where there was chemical weapons being tested and 6,000 sheep died, and the government sort of hid it until finally they said, yeah, no, these sheep died because of our chemical testings. That sort of influenced in this as well. Very fascinating, okay? Like, I love reading why authors wrote stuff and what they're influenced by. He did at one time almost delete this book, or I say delete, but you know, throw out this book because of writer's block, which I think is important to note, especially when it's, you know, such a big book. Another fun fact, when he was finished the first manuscript of this, it weighed 12 pounds, which that's a book, right? Like a 12-pound manuscript. Like, here you go. He submitted it to the publisher, and the publisher actually at the time, they were gluing books together instead of cloth binding them, and they said the 1,200 words, or 1,200 pages, did I say words this whole time? The 1,200 pages that it was actually too big for them to glue it together, and so they went to King and they said, hey, would you like an editor to cut this down, or would you like to do it? And he's like, okay, I'll do it. And so he ended up cutting out several parts of this book, which I can understand why they were those parts, but having read them, I enjoyed them, so it's kind of hard to, you know, to edit out stuff that I think really helps beef out the book. He says after the fact that it is not one of his favorite novels, but it's the one that people seem to like the most. And I did found another little fun fact that said that this is one of America's top 5 favorite books as of 2008. So it's like To Kill a Mockingbird, like some other ones, and then The Stand by Stephen King. So it goes to show, I guess, sort of the impact that that book has had. Often when he's asked about this book is like, how do you write books this size? And he said, I write it like one word at a time, which I think is important, especially for writers. I contributed in NaNoWriMo this month in November, and you literally just have to do it one word at a time. So, I mean, that's not really great advice, but truth. Another thing I always love to talk about is how Stephen King spends his money, which is just fun. By this point, he was probably making pretty decent money from his books, and so what I find interesting is when asked, like, you know, what did you spend your money on when you got sort of the payment from this book, he said that he bought a canoe, actually, and he said, and I quote, "We have a mortgage like everyone else, but I don't have to worry about payments anymore. I'm not out here buying yachts. I bought a canoe, a video camera, and some hardcover books." Bought a canoe. Like, are canoes expensive? I don't know. Some kind of fun facts. I'm sure there's so many more about The Stand, and yeah, that's just some fun facts that I happen to really like. I'm sort of next gonna get into some spoilers, so if you have not read this book, please end the video now. I will not be upset because I'm getting into spoilers now. I'm going to discuss things now. Alright, you good? Good. Alright, so let's talk about the ending of The Stand. That is what a lot of people have issues with. The entire time that I read this book, I did expect sort of that epic war between good and evil, between Mother Abigail's people and Randall Flagg's people. I expected just a big, nasty war. What ended up happening, as if you've read this book, you know that there was that sort of nuclear bomb that blows up Las Vegas and kills everybody. That was a little weird. The little bit of fantasy elements in this book are a little weird because I feel like it reads mostly like a contemporary dystopian until you get that sort of Randall Flagg supernatural stuff. And so, you know, the hand that comes down and causes everything to blow up wasn't my favorite necessarily, but I don't know, I kind of just loved the whole thing. And it's crazy to think that I read so much of this book to get to the ending and I wanted more. Like, how is that a thing? How is it that I wanted a big epic war, you know, between these people? But I was reading it and I was inching closer and closer to the end. I'm like, how's this gonna end? Like, how's this gonna fucking end? I don't know how it's gonna I don't know. I can't say that, like, I was, thrilled by the ending, but having read more King since then, I know that King writes and writes and writes and writes and does not know how to write an ending, in my personal opinion. I feel like that sort of happened here as well. I understand what happened with the explosion and the bomb, but would I have liked it to be messier? Maybe. Would I liked it to even be longer than it is? Maybe. One other thing I do want to just talk about quick is things that I have issues with earlier King writing. I think it needs to be talked about. There is a lot of racism in this book, as it is with a lot of King. I think that, you know, King himself is not a racist person. However, he has a tendency to write his bad characters as racist characters, which gets, like, annoying to read and hard to read, especially in 2018. Also, there's one character in here, I believe his name is Tom, who gets referred to with the R word nonstop. It's relentless and nonstop, and they play on that, and it just makes me very uncomfortable. But again, I can acknowledge that it was maybe acceptable at the time of writing, or if you wanted to make these characters shitty, I get it, but it's still not that pleasant to read about, especially because it's like, I don't like that word, I don't like using it, we don't use it, you know, in 2018. Yeah, that's just something that I had issues with. In terms of the actual ending, getting back to, you know, how it finally wraps up, it's just, it's a little clean. You do lose a lot of, like, characters that we come to know and love, but it does wrap up, I think, kind of clean after the big event that happens and they kind of get back. My absolute favorite thing about this book is literally the last line, and I think that's so funny. You know, it's like, do you think that people ever learn anything? With basically asking, you know, do you think that the human race learns from its mistakes? And the very last, you know, line is, I don't know. Which, I mean, that theme comes out so much in dystopian books, is like, you know, will humans repeat history over and over and over again as it sort of has been proven to happen? Or will we learn from our mistakes? I don't know. That's such a great ending. I don't know. I think I don't know. I think that's just fun that it's wrapped up like that. Yeah, I could talk about this book for hours. There's so much book to unpack here that it's almost easier to just go, this is what I liked about it. So much to discuss. I honestly, and this is gonna sound crazy, I want to reread this a lot. Like, I feel like this is a book that I want to reread over and over and over again, because one read of this is not going to get every bit of this into your brain. It's just not possible. For me anyway, I can't absorb this massive book and the ability to talk about it heavily all in one go. If you have made it this far in this video, I do hope you guys like it. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Moving forward for Stephen King Sundays, I do want to let you guys know that I don't think I'm going to be able to watch all the adaptations. I will maybe watch some of the popular ones, but there's so many adaptations and so long, and some of them are whole entire TV series, that if I were to watch every single adaptation and pair it along with my book reviews, I'll be doing this for like 17 years. So I'm just going to continue to read the book and review them, and every now and then if I do happen to watch an adaptation, I'll pop back on for Stephen King Sunday and I'll talk about it. But I wanted to go through in order as I read the books, watch the adaptation. It's just not possible. I want to read books quicker and I want to review King quicker. So watching all those adaptations is just time that I do not have. Not to mention, I don't think that any one adaptation could ever fully get all the details that is in this book in proper movie form. I just don't. So I think it's one that I prefer to read and not watch, and I suggest you do the same. So yeah, I'm not making this too long. I do hope you guys enjoy this video. Do stay tuned for other Stephen King Sundays. I will be going through in order. And yeah, the next one I believe is The Night Shift, I believe, so don't quote me on that, and I will have a review up for that when I can. I do hope you guys enjoy this video, and until my next one, I will talk to all you soon. Bye!